We've all been hurt, betrayed, wronged. Carrying these wounds, these grudges, can feel like an unbearable weight on our souls. It drags us down, keeping us stuck in the past. The bitterness festers, poisoning our present and casting a shadow over our future. Unforgiveness holds us captive, preventing us from experiencing true peace and joy. But what if there was a way to break free? Forgiveness is not easy. It's a daily choice, a conscious effort to release the pain and anger that binds us. We may question our ability to forgive, especially when the wounds run deep. We might wrestle with feelings of anger, resentment, and even a desire for revenge. These feelings are understandable, even human, but they don't have to control us. C.S. Lewis understood these struggles. He knew that forgiveness is not a sign of weakness, but an act of incredible strength. His insights into human nature, combined with his deep faith, provide a roadmap for navigating the complex terrain of forgiveness. He reminds us that forgiveness is not a one-time event, but a journey, a process of healing that takes time and courage. C.S. Lewis, the brilliant Oxford scholar and author of beloved classics like the Chronicles of Narnia, delved deeply into the themes of grace, redemption, and forgiveness. His words resonate with millions because they speak to the deepest longings of the human heart. He understood the transformative power of forgiveness, not just for the forgiven, but for the forgiver. In the following sections, we will explore Lewis's profound insights on forgiveness. Through his words, we'll discover how to break free from the chains of anger and resentment. We'll learn how to embrace the liberating power of forgiveness, allowing ourselves to heal, to grow, and to experience true peace. Imagine a young woman named Sarah. Full of life, she trusted her friend implicitly. They shared secrets, dreams, and laughter. But one day, Sarah discovered her trust had been shattered. Her friend had betrayed her in a deep and painful way. The pain was raw, sharp, and all-consuming. It felt like her world had been turned upside down. Sarah couldn't understand how someone she cared about so deeply could hurt her so profoundly. The betrayal cut deep, leaving her feeling lost, vulnerable, and alone. The easy path would be to hold on to the anger, to nurse the wounds and let bitterness take root. But deep down, Sarah knew this path would only lead to more pain. As days turned into weeks, Sarah found herself trapped in a cycle of anger and resentment. Every thought seemed to circle back to the betrayal. She replayed the events in her mind, each time feeling the sting of pain anew. Sleep offered little respite, haunted by nightmares and what-ifs. This anger began to seep into every aspect of Sarah's life. She found it difficult to focus on her work. Her relationships suffered, and the joy she once felt seemed like a distant memory. The weight of unforgiveness was taking its toll, leaving her feeling emotionally drained and spiritually depleted. C.S. Lewis reminds us that holding on to anger is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. It's a self-inflicted wound that festers and grows, poisoning our own hearts and minds. Forgiveness, on the other hand, is the antidote. It's the difficult but necessary step towards healing and freedom. Part of Sarah's struggle stemmed from a deep-seated need for control. By holding on to her anger, she felt like she was somehow punishing her friend, making her accountable for the pain she had caused. She believed that forgiveness equated to condoning the betrayal, letting her friend off the hook. But C.S. Lewis reminds us that true forgiveness is not about the other person. It's about releasing ourselves from the grip of the past and reclaiming our own peace. It's about acknowledging that we cannot control the actions of others, but we can choose how we respond to them. Sarah realized that her anger wasn't hurting her friend. It was hurting her. It was keeping her tethered to the past, preventing her from moving forward and embracing the future. She began to understand that forgiveness was not a sign of weakness, but an act of incredible strength and self-love. As Sarah grappled with these complex emotions, she began to recognize the true cost of unforgiveness. It wasn't just impacting her own well-being, but it was also creating a barrier in her relationship with God. She realized that just as she longed for forgiveness, she too was called to extend it to others. C.S. Lewis believed that forgiveness is at the very heart of the Christian faith. He saw it as a reflection of God's boundless love and mercy for us. Just as God, in his infinite grace, chooses to forgive our shortcomings, we too are called to extend that same grace to others, even when it's difficult. One rainy afternoon, Sarah found herself at a local coffee shop. Lost in thought, she barely noticed the person who sat down at the table next to her. But as she glanced up, her heart skipped a beat. It was her friend's mother. A wave of emotions washed over Sarah. Anger, hurt, betrayal. She wanted to get up and leave, to escape the awkward encounter. But something kept her rooted to her spot. As if sensing her presence, her friend's mother turned and smiled warmly. "Sarah," she said, her voice filled with a mixture of surprise and genuine affection. "It's so good to see you. How are you doing?" Sarah was taken aback by her kindness. She had expected coldness, judgment, maybe even anger. Instead, she was met with warmth and compassion. Hesitantly, Sarah began to share what had been weighing on her heart. She spoke of the betrayal, the pain she had carried, the struggle to forgive. To her surprise, her friend's mother listened intently, her eyes filled with understanding and a touch of sadness. When Sarah finished speaking, a heavy silence hung in the air. "Sarah," her friend's mother began softly, "I can't imagine what you've been going through. What my child did was wrong, and I don't expect you to simply forget or excuse her actions. But I want you to know that I understand your pain." She paused, her gaze filled with a profound sense of sorrow. "You see, I too have been hurt by my daughter's choices. I've felt the sting of betrayal, the weight of disappointment. But I've also learned that holding on to anger only hurts me in the end." Her words struck a chord deep within Sarah. For the first time, she saw her friend's actions not just as a personal betrayal, but as part of a larger story, a story of human frailty and the ripple effects of our choices. She realized that her friend, like all of us, was flawed and capable of causing pain, even unintentionally. C.S. Lewis's words echoed in Sarah's mind. She had been so focused on the injustice of it all, the pain inflicted upon her, that she hadn't stopped to consider the possibility of her friend also being trapped, a prisoner of her own bad choices. Could it be that in withholding forgiveness, Sarah was imprisoning not only her friend, but also herself? Her friend's mother reached out and gently placed her hand over Sarah's. "Forgiveness," she said, "is not a sign of weakness, Sarah. It's an act of defiance. It's about refusing to let the darkness of someone else's actions extinguish the light within you. It's about choosing to break free from the chains of resentment and step into the freedom of forgiveness." Her words were like a lifeline thrown to a drowning woman. For the first time, Sarah saw forgiveness not as a surrender, but as a victory. It wasn't about condoning her friend's actions, but about choosing to release the anger and bitterness that had taken root in her own heart. It was about reclaiming her own power and refusing to let the past dictate her future. C.S. Lewis believed that true forgiveness is a supernatural act, something that goes beyond our human capacity. It's a gift from God, freely given to those who are willing to receive it. And in that moment, Sarah felt a glimmer of that divine grace washing over her, melting away the layers of hurt and resentment she had carried for so long. The encounter with her friend's mother was a turning point for Sarah. It didn't erase the pain of the past, but it offered a new perspective, a glimmer of hope. She realized that forgiveness was not a destination, but a journey, a process of healing that would take time and courage. But she also knew that it was a journey worth taking, for her own sake, and for the sake of her relationship with God. C.S. Lewis wrote, "Everyone thinks forgiveness is a lovely idea until they have something to forgive." Sarah understood this now more than ever. Forgiveness was not easy, but it was possible. And in choosing to forgive, she was choosing freedom. Freedom from the chains of anger, freedom from the bitterness of the past, and freedom to embrace a future filled with hope and healing. The decision to forgive was just the beginning of Sarah's journey. It was like opening a heavy, creaking door that led to a long, winding staircase. Each step forward required courage and determination. There were moments when the pain of the past threatened to pull her back, when the anger flared up unexpectedly. But Sarah held on to the words of C.S. Lewis, reminding herself that forgiveness is not a feeling, but a choice, a daily act of the will. She began to focus on her own healing, seeking therapy to process her emotions and develop healthy coping mechanisms. She rediscovered the power of prayer, pouring out her heart to God and asking for strength and guidance. She also surrounded herself with supportive friends and family who offered love and encouragement along the way. C.S. Lewis wrote, "The Christian does not think God will love us because we are good, but that God will make us good because he loves us." These words brought Sarah comfort as she navigated the messy, imperfect process of healing. She realized that forgiveness didn't mean forgetting or condoning the wrong that had been done. It simply meant choosing to release the bitterness and resentment that were poisoning her own heart. As Sarah continued on her journey of forgiveness, she began to notice a shift within herself. The constant weight of anger and resentment began to lift, replaced by a sense of peace and lightness she had almost forgotten. She found herself more patient, more understanding, not just towards her friend, but towards others as well. The act of forgiveness had a ripple effect, extending outward from Sarah's own heart to touch the lives of those around her. She found herself more willing to extend grace to others, to offer forgiveness freely, knowing the transformative power it held. She became a beacon of hope and healing in her own circle of influence. C.S. Lewis believed that forgiveness is not just an individual act, but a communal one. He wrote, "To be a Christian means to forgive the inexcusable because God has forgiven the inexcusable in you." Sarah realized that just as she had been forgiven by God for her own failings, she was called to extend that same forgiveness to others, even when it was difficult. Forgiveness and reconciliation. It's important to note that forgiveness does not always lead to reconciliation. In some cases, the relationship may be too damaged to repair, or the other person may not be willing to take responsibility for their actions. However, even in the absence of reconciliation, forgiveness is still possible and necessary for our own healing. In Sarah's case, she chose to reach out to her friend, not with expectations of restoring the relationship to what it once was, but simply to offer forgiveness and to let go of the past. To her surprise, her friend was receptive to her apology. While their relationship would never be the same, there was a newfound understanding and respect between them. C.S. Lewis believed that true love is not merely a feeling, but a choice, a commitment to the well-being of another person. Forgiveness, in its purest form, is an act of love, a willingness to release another person from the debt of their wrongdoing, even if they don't deserve it. The power of forgiveness, as C.S. Lewis so eloquently articulated, lies in its ability to break the chains of the past and set us free to embrace a future filled with hope and healing. It's a journey, not a destination, a process of continual growth and transformation. Sarah's story is a testament to the transformative power of forgiveness. By choosing to release the anger and resentment that had taken root in her heart, she opened herself up to a world of possibilities. She discovered a strength and resilience she never knew she possessed. And she emerged from the experience a more compassionate, understanding, and forgiving person. C.S. Lewis, through his profound insights into the human condition, reminds us that forgiveness is not a sign of weakness, but an act of immense courage. It's a choice to confront the pain of betrayal, to acknowledge the wrong done to us, and yet to choose a different path, a path of healing, growth, and ultimately, freedom. Sarah's journey, marked by its share of stumbles and triumphs, illuminates the transformative power that forgiveness holds. It's not about condoning the actions of those who have hurt us, but about releasing ourselves from the grip of resentment, freeing ourselves to embrace a future unburdened by the weight of the past. Forgiving others, as Lewis so powerfully articulated, is not about them. It's about us. It's about reclaiming our own peace of mind, our own emotional well-being. It's about refusing to let the bitterness of another's actions poison our own hearts. It's a conscious decision to step out of the shadows of anger and resentment and into the radiant light of forgiveness, a light that has the power to illuminate not just our own lives, but the lives of those around us. Forgiveness, as we've seen through Sarah's experience, is not a one-time event, but an ongoing journey, a process that requires patience, compassion, and unwavering commitment. There will be days when the pain of the past resurfaces, when anger flares unexpectedly, threatening to pull us back into the darkness. But it's in those moments that we must dig deep, drawing on the wisdom of C.S. Lewis and the countless others who have walked this path before us, reminding ourselves that forgiveness is a choice we make each and every day. It's a journey of self-discovery, of confronting our own vulnerabilities, and of learning to extend grace to ourselves and others. It's about acknowledging that we are all flawed human beings, capable of both great love and, at times, great hurt. It's about embracing the messy, imperfect reality of the human experience and choosing, despite the challenges, to live a life defined by love, compassion, and forgiveness. The power of forgiveness, as C.S. Lewis so eloquently conveyed, extends far beyond the personal sphere. It has the potential to heal broken relationships, to mend fractured communities, and to create a more compassionate and just world. When we choose to forgive, we break the cycle of hurt and resentment, creating ripples of peace and understanding that spread outward, touching countless lives. We are all interconnected, our lives intertwined in a tapestry of shared experiences. The act of forgiveness, however small it may seem, has the power to transform not just our own lives, but the world around us. By embracing the legacy of C,